continue the talk until people fill it, and then I'll
I do
start.
this for your safety,
No, I
Paige.
can see the numbers in the upper right hand corner
Oh, it
or
shows
left
you on
hand corner.
yours? I thought it only shows
Yeah,
it
Yeah,
on mine.
it shows up in all of ours. Live,
So this
11,
whole
12.
time I've been counting down for no damn reason.
I don't know. This is
No,
like
we
the
like
first.
it. Keep doing that.
You're our tech guy. That's all you do is just techie things.
It's true. It's true.
When are you gonna shave? Your beard's kind of getting wild.
Probably June, end of June,
Okay.
Is that when you
because I
people
got
go into the woods or what?
it is. It is. So right before I go to the woods, I'm going to my barber and have him fix it.
Don't want tree sap in it.
So Josh is a carny, in case you
Yeah.
didn't know. He
Oh.
disappears into the woods for weeks doing his carny training. Then he comes out for the Oregon State Fair.
Amazing.
No, I go to Oregon Country Fair for a long time. It's very true.
All right, I guess there's a difference of state and country. I didn't know
There's
that.
no rides.
There's definitely rides there. Riding is happening in what you people do there.
No, it's just
You
handmade.
people.
handmade
Oh,
stuff.
he's got some people. Dan, you will find out. He's got people.
All right.
All right, guys, what is up? Welcome back to Jammers in the Rough. I know you all missed me last week, so I'm back. I was too busy getting my butt kicked at Dela, so I do apologize for that. I should have joined us, and maybe that good chemistry and camaraderie would have carried me over to a successful bout at Masters Cup, but unfortunately it didn't, and I was punished. So the wrath of Josh and Cody were definitely felt. But we got an amazing guest with us today for you all. Danny, the man, the author, what is it? Smooth as butter, silk. This
Dr.
individual,
Butter, Mr. Butter. You called me Mr. Butter one time. It was the best compliment I ever got on this
Mr.
podcast,
Butter.
of course.
That's what it was. I
Mr.
couldn't remember what
Butter.
it was exactly, but I don't know. He has the smoothest form I've ever seen, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But as always, we have Josh, the bearded man, Winter. We got Cody, the absolute worst, and as always, I'm back, Paige. So, Danny, welcome to the show. How you been?
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I've been well. It's anyone who's local to Portland, Oregon knows that it's been really nice weather for the past few days, and it's the kind of thing that I think improves everyone's mood dramatically, and also very conducive to playing disc golf. So I'm very happy. As we were talking about just before we got started here, got to play some of Milo McIver yesterday, and still buzzing on the vibes.
I know. I feel like everyone's excited for OTB weekend, but BSF is where like all my attention's at. We have the qualifier next Tuesday. We have a new gold layout at BSF. So not new 18 holes. They just redesigned the course to be one fluid 18 holes, and it's bigger, harder, better than ever before. Like I'm really excited for
Is
that.
it playing a lot different than like years
The-
previous?
I think the flow's different because so for me in years past, like BSF had like on each side, west and east has like 3 or 4 holes that are kind of soft reset points for yourself. So if you start off kind of slow, you're like, okay, here's these couple birdies that are going to come through. Or if you started bad, here's this couple birdies. Or, here's something to build on if you're doing good. They have these reset holes. And they're usually shorter putter only holes. I think if you watch coverage, you kind of can know them. I think Cole aced one last year and put the Sea Otter on the map. And so I think these holes are great. They're fun, but they're not, I don't think, Silver Series level holes. So what they did is they took those out. They put 18 fresh, not fresh, but they took 18 of the most scenic holes, redesigned some holes, complete FPO revamp, and actually designed the course for FPO, which I don't think a lot of people do, to make it flow even better. But so for me, it plays entirely different because you don't have those resets. Almost every single hole, it's like, this is a good par, this is a challenging birdie, one after another. So it becomes more taxing than I think BSF years past. Whereas, like, what was it? Girthy shot like 13 or 14 down last year and just shredded it. And it's like, okay, this is kind of teetering on easy. I'd be hard pressed to see somebody get 10 down out here, but that's just me. What about you, Danny? How does it play for you?
I really enjoyed it. I don't think I'd really thought about it the way you just said it until then, but yeah, there was not a break because I think Milo McIver, you get a lot of like those challenging par threes that are like 350 plus. And then there were previously on the course, some like 200, 250 foot par threes where it's like, all right, like and there's pressure on those holes for sure because you feel like you got a birdie, but at the same time, like every shot counts. Almost more like when you go play Blue Lake, you're like, do not take a mental breakout here because you can run up your score really fast. I love the work that the guy is doing out there. Is it mostly Jesse?
Yeah, as I say,
responsible for this?
huge shout out to Jesse Tomeno, tournament director, All Day
Yeah.
Disc Golf. If you're in Portland this next week, look them up. They put a lot of TLC into the course, like literally hauling out blackberry bushes, laying fresh mulch, organizing the player parties and planning of that, all of that. So Jesse Tomeno, huge shout out. But yeah,
there were some pathways between the holes through the woods with like nice mulch and like little walkways that were like really nicely done. I mean, it's already just the absolute mecca, one of the best courses in the world. But it looks great. I thought there were a couple new pin placements, or maybe just one that I'm thinking of that was like, ooh, I love that. That's fun. On a hole that was already challenging. It's usually East 8, the one along the river. After you go the big downhill, it's one of the hardest holes on the course, and it plays along the Clackamas, and you either got to fire it big hyzer to the left or like uphill to the right, and they meet back there. It's a brutal hole, and there's a new pin placement over to the right that I thought that was a really nice touch on a hole it was already challenging but kind of impossible to birdie. I think some of the pros are going to throw some amazing right-handed backup flip-up shots that are going to be like that will be like a sick hole to see people try and birdie that I would say previously hardly anyone was birdieing.
Also, like I think it's the only course that I've been to where they're looking at their drainage issues on the greens. So there's like a handful of French drains that got put in around new pin placements. And if you don't know what a French drain is, it's kind of designed and acts as like a tank where the water will seep into the ground, drain over to this French drain away from the area. It'll fill this kind of tank-like hole and then slowly dissipate. And they're putting this in. I didn't even count, but there was at least like 4 or 5 that I noticed almost instantly. That's like the only course that's starting to figure out like, let's take some of this drainage seriously and get this water away from like tough areas, especially in such a wet climate. And I think I'm really curious to see how it's going to play out in some of these wetter months in the future, but kind of looking at other courses to do something similar.
I don't think I've ever seen a drain on any disc golf course. That's impressive.
Yeah. No, the only reason I know what a French drain is because my contractor, who was like a wood savant, was like, hey, I'm taking this rhododendron out. They suck up so much water. You need a French drain. Otherwise, you're probably going to get flooding. So he dug it. He explained it to me. And I'm just like, oh, yeah. So anywhere I'm at, I'm like, we should put a French drain right here. They're super easy. All you got to do is like river rock, which is like $30 a yard. And boom, buried. It's there.
I'll say PVC pipe with holes in it. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That's what they use for foundations pretty much everywhere. So that's cool to see a French drain on a disc golf course.
Multiple.
Is river rock only $30 a yard?
Yeah.
It's pretty cheap. It depends
really
on what kind you get, but like you can use all sorts of it. But I don't think we're getting into landscaping prices.
I don't think people because people I feel like go to like Home Depot and they're like, hey, give me a bag of this, and they're like $20 instantly. But it's like when you go to like the old like quarries where they're just like you pull up your truck and you're like, hey, I need this, and they're like, do you want this size or this size? And it's like usually $20 to $40. It doesn't get
if you're buying by the yard.
Yeah,
that's what I do with mulch and stuff. Just buy by the yard.
Exactly. Mulch is like $20, $30.
Yeah,
for a full yard.
Let's get into landscaping. Let's talk about it.
I just had 3 yards of soil delivered, and I only needed 2. It took me a minute to figure out where to put the other yard of soil.
Spread it out.
No, I needed a level spot in my backyard and ended up getting like 4 yards myself. And yeah, it was like $100, $120.
Not bad.
But that's not what we're here to talk about, guys. We're here to talk.
We have a guest and we're talking about landscape pricing.
It's important information.
I'm here for it.
He took off his sleeve, so it just makes me think like landscaper. He's just out there pruning his garden, showing off the guns.
First guest wearing a tank top, and I'm kind of jealous.
Well, I was telling him earlier, like he's our most handsome guest so far.
Oh, man.
Paige will hit on you.
I will.
I had not been alerted that we would be camera on, and I probably would have formaled it up a little bit, joining you guys in the graphic tee realm. But
Have you looked at the rest of us, dude? You're not. You're
I don't
fine,
have-
man.
I don't have air conditioning. It's about 80 degrees, so I feel pretty good the way I am. I did bring a couple discs to touch. I don't know if you guys do this, and I was like, we're on camera.
all the time.
Yeah, like I'm watching a movie. I'm like, or just YouTube videos. I'm watching coverage. I usually am touching a disc. Do you guys do that?
All the
I
time.
keep them in my car. I drive around with them in my car.
See, actually, that's funny. I don't have one in my car all the time, but when I'm going to go play, I will take usually my putter and put it up front with me, so that I'm just sitting in the stoplights doing this. So that so it's like hole one with your 25-foot look or whatever. You're like, oh yeah, I've been touching that thing for half an hour.
When I drove to Texas for 28 hours, I had 2 discs up front with me the whole time, and I'd just switch between them, and I'd just sit here and one hand on the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's comfort.
No, I feel like that's one of the most things, like, because touching a disc, it's your grips are uncomfortable. However you grip the disc, it's just getting used to that and comfortable with that. I think is huge. So I still fondle the hell out of discs, and just get that comfortability on it, especially when I'm working a new grip. So this is like my modified fan grip that I throw my mid ranges on. It's just like learning this summer with Justin Anderson was like, okay, cool. Now everywhere I'm go, I'm just like, grab the disc. But I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So I want to hear. This is what I've been looking forward to. This is my biggest question. The only question I've thought about this. So you're a disc golfer, and that's how we met. But you're also a writer, and I love books. I got back into a book. I meant to read your book this weekend. I picked up a different book and finished it, and was reading that. So I do apologize for not fully reading your book quite yet, but it's on my docket list. But how do these worlds collide, and how did they intermingle for you?
Well, first of all, thanks for even buying my book. I appreciate that, and I forgive you for not finishing it yet. I always wanted to be a writer. Like, that was just what I wanted to do, and I've had other jobs my whole life. I'm 39. I got my first book deal when I was 34. And actually, I discovered disc golf. My friend Miles introduced me to. You played with Miles before, right?
Yep.
You met Miles. He introduced me to disc golf when I was 33. So actually, around the same time, I started becoming a professional writer. But I've been writing since much before I got the contract. I mean, I think the obvious way in which they collide is like, they're difficult. Because I mean, I don't know. I feel like when I tell people what I do for work and that I write novels, that people are like, "Oh, wow, I could never do that." I'm like, I mean, if you really wanted to, could you? Because I mean, people doggedly pursue things. Like what are you doing? And I mean, anyone who could be a professional disc golfer could write a novel. I'm not saying it'd be good, but people are working their ass off to be a professional disc golfer. And if you see a book on a shelf, I don't care. I don't really like that many books because I'm picky, because I've been doing it a long time, but I'm still just respect anyone who puts in the effort. So, I think that they dovetail in that way. And then the challenge for me is when it's sunny out to stay in my chair and write and not go play disc golf. Because if you're self-employed, any of you guys self-employed?
No, but I'm working from home, and I sneak out probably way too much in order to do just what you're saying. I was like, I got this meeting at 1. Let me take it on the road as I drive to the disc golf course.
Right. Yeah. I played I played casually, like recreational disc golf for about a year. And then, you know how it is, right? Like the first time you just snap out like a nose down hyzer flip and you're like, oh, like this isn't just some way to go out with your buddies and like have a beer in the woods. Like this is actually like, you get the bug. And so that was the year I was finishing my first book, and I was just like wrestling myself in that chair. But I drove to Pier Park deciding my workday was over at like 2:30 p.m. 3-4 times a week that year, and I still finished the book. So I think that there's like a discipline involved in being good at disc golf, and a lot of discipline involved in being a writer. In my life, they have sometimes come into conflict with each other. But I think I learned a lot. I was playing sports long before I got into disc golf. I played a lot of basketball in my life. Learning how to put in the work to do the unfun parts was a big, important part of how I succeeded as a writer, accepting that, you only get results if you are willing to grind.
So I do got to ask, like, when you're writing, have you snuck any of like your favorite like greens and tee shots or whatever? Just like, oh, he walks up this narrow fairway about 300 feet and then he dog legs to the left. And then there's this guy, like, have you,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm not a writer, I'm not
Right.
as articulate with the words, but have you ever stuck something like that in?
That was good. You should write that down. It's funny because like the two books I have out, the first one's called Beijing Payback, and it takes place between Los Angeles and Beijing. And the second one takes place between Seattle and Mexico City. So there's not a lot of like beautiful wooded fairways. These are like big, major, some of the most populated cities in the world. There's definitely been times where I've been like, man, these would be incredible, like, not just weapons, but like, hey, what if you need to get a listening device up on like a high, like the 35th floor?
450
right.
feet away, you're like,
throw a thumber, baby. But yeah, no, I mean, I think, for people who read, Beijing Payback has a fair amount of basketball in it. The protagonist is a college basketball player, and what happens in the story is his father's murdered, and he has to solve the crime, and he has to go from California to China to get revenge or payback.
Ooh.
And so his the first scene of the book is on the basketball court, and it's him practicing, and you see the ways in which sports has prepared him physically and psychologically for the kind of physical and psychological challenges he's going to have solving a crime and solving a murder. And there's like knife throwing in the book, spinning objects, not discs, but like, I think anything you do that's like tactile and physical, where you're thinking about where things are and where you're standing and how fast you can get from one place to another and that kind of thing, it informs writing good action. So in that sense, I would say disc golf has definitely influenced my writing. Literally, it's like, hey man, I was at a place the other day where someone's like, how high do you think that is? Someone was like, I bet that's 70 feet. I looked at it and I was like, circle 2, that's 55 feet. Like, I knew it, nothing else. Disc golf makes you really good at knowing when something is 33 feet long. You're like, yeah, no, that's inside or outside, I can tell.
Yeah, I can putt this. So it's like,
Yeah.
at least circle 2.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Can you
That's how my
sneak
joke-
the word Heiser into your next book? Just like Heiser. Just like,
One thing I've thought about, I mean, what you guys are doing here is really cool. And I'm like, who's going to be the Bill Simmons of disc golf? Because I'm down. Like, I would love to write about disc golf, but I would have to probably like pack up my whole life and go on tour and like follow these guys around and stuff. But like, there's no good disc golf website with, like, Ultra World has some coverage, but like, you don't get like in-depth coverage of disc golf written coverage. Yeah, I don't know. I should just get a divorce and go do that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if the
usually-
divorce is something I would propose, but I'm on board with everything else. As you
Just
see, like
sneak
a
into
disc
divorce.
you see a disc fly in from his wife. And
Right,
just oh,
that's what is it? The Eagle McMahon Skull Crusher. It's gonna be the McMahon Payback.
Yeah.
Just write that. The wife of the guy who got hit chasing after Eagle, going on tour.
That was a crazy thing that happened, by the way. That was. Like bone chilling. They got
Yep.
Did you guys hear if there was any sort of changes to policy after that thing happened?
I don't think so.
Nothing
I know
about
they
probably
usually-
on the coverage side of it, like the cameraman. Maybe they have worked better spotting into it, but I don't think there's anything
Helmets.
changed. If you see dudes with helmets filming, then you know.
I mean, seriously, that guy could have been like,
Oh,
Was
no,
he
no.
Joe
bad
Maz
danger.
or was he somebody else?
I don't know.
I thought it was Gatekeeper, right? Second card.
Maybe.
Oh no,
thought I
was it
heard somebody
DGN?
say-
Was it DGN?
I thought
I
I
think
heard
it's
somebody
DGN.
say that like Joe Mez or another company like will spot for their guys and say like he's going over the top, so everyone's like looking up. But
Yeah.
If you
If it
didn't have
was
enough
Gatekeeper, there could be some more to
Shortage.
it. Like
Yeah.
there was that deal struck between DGN and Jomez, and they get rid of the competition.
That's really what happened. Was like Jomez got in trouble. Like, all right, guys, we're pulling your rights. You're grounded. We're gonna absorb you, all for this one incident.
This
So they're
one
putting
guy
hits
got
on
taken out.
cameramen.
Yeah. So we're just helping with this book idea.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
you go. You wanted some of that input. Here we are.
Yeah. Hey, did you guys ever see a movie called? There's a bunch of good basketball movies. Love and Basketball.
Basketball Diaries.
Basketball Diaries, right?
That is a solid one.
What's going to be the first?
Coach Carter.
Coach Carter. I love
Dude,
that one.
come on,
I
man.
tried that shoe.
Hoosiers. I mean, come on. There's so many good
Yeah.
ones.
What's gonna be the
Airbud?
first good disc? Airbud.
Maybe not Airbud.
Oh yeah, sure. No, that's a high quality film.
I don't know, have you guys ever watched 8 Seconds?
No, what's that?
It's about Lane Frost. He's a bull rider. Him, Tuff Hedeman, Ty Murray, kind of before they created PBR. Anyways, it's a great movie, but it tackles a lot of like being on the road rather than just like, here's the action shots of bull riding. And so it's like you get this whole like, hey, waiting on Lane while they pull up to this house and he's late and they're waiting for this guy to show up so they can get on the road. And so I always thought like a disc golf movie would be great in that sense of being like, not so much about like the tournament and the event, but what leads up to it, right? Like, oh, we're on the road. We're just leaving another event. We barely have enough gas. We get here, and like it's all of the camaraderie, the chemistry, the joking, the hey, it's a players meeting, it's awkward fans, it's all of this stuff.
Right.
And then here's the event, because I think
rivalries, the romances,
Exactly.
Ooh, romance.
And so I always thought that'd be a cool way to do a disc golf movie instead of just being just, oh, here's 18 holes, the perfect 18. Paul Macbeth just wakes up Rocky traded, like pulling pulling a car, whatever he can.
Yeah.
Instead of doing it that kind of movie, I kind of like this other idea. So whoever's listening to this, if you create a movie, I just ask for 10%. That's it. You can use my idea. Danny can write it.
I'm down. I actually went to Milo before the Beaver State Fling last summer, and like all the pros were there practicing, and I parked by this trailer and I got out and there was like a loud domestic argument going on inside. I'm not going to say who the disc manufacturer was or who I think was having the argument because I don't really know for sure, but I was like, I'm going to move my car like just a few spaces away because these people were like shouting at each other in the trailer. And it is, it's funny. The coolest thing, because I've been going to the Portland Open now for about 3 years, is that this is like actually a tour. Still, so it actually is like, I'm sure it's super rich in like drama and rivals. Like this is a small thing where a bunch of guys, like a circus, like a tour, like the PGA Tour isn't a tour where these guys drive from place to place. The Disc Golf Pro Tour still is, and I know some of the bigger names are like flying now, but like literally a bunch of trailers, all these people travel together, not just the athletes, but also like the media people and everything. And then all these 6'4" guys hop out and start like doing their like stretchy bands and stuff. And it's like, man, like there's definitely some good stories. Who's partying together afterwards, all that kind of thing. And it's cool to see it in this early stage when it still is very, accessible and personable in that way.
I was saying we had Gavin Babcock on one week and he was talking about it from like his van. So, and he was talking about how they travel with his buddies and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. Write a book, man. Write it.
All right, the disc golf book.
Well, I think too, like you bring up a good point, like the random things that happen on a disc golf course, like the domestic like argument and everything. I know I showed up to Milo one time. And I was like, I really like this backdrop, and this is when I was doing Ask Uncle, and so I was being videoed. So Ask Uncle was like people write questions in, our youth would, and we would answer them as a relative team, and so I was recording the answers, but there's like one where I'm like talking suicide prevention and suicide hotline and answering these things with Milo in the backdrop before I was about to play around. And it's just like, oh yeah, the random happenstances on a disc golf course are probably, few and far between and definitely like random out there. So just go plop down on hole one and write everything you see.
Yeah.
We got 19-year-old something. Looks like he grabbed a disc for the first time. Too cool for school. Rips, nose up, stalls out, lands in the French drain, Let's see how he bogeys this hole.
Are you just trying to see how many times you can say French drain on this podcast?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We got a bet
That's gonna
going.
be like, whoever can tell me how many times I say French drain on this episode will get a disc. There you go. Cody will count them up.
Yeah, sure, I will. I would definitely make that number up.
I don't know
do it
about
all
you
the
guys.
time.
I'm curious, like, how much has disc golf affected actually, like, so I feel like when I started playing disc golf, I tried to get everybody I knew to play disc golf, like, including my then girlfriend, now wife, and all my friends. And then at a certain point, I got good enough where it's like, I don't really want, it's like, unless you got really into it, you stay home. And I'm gonna go. And like, so it's like affected
You don't
my
take
life.
it as serious. You don't take it as seriously as I do, so I don't want to get
No
out
way.
there.
No way. And definitely don't bring so and so who's gonna talk while I'm putting. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Is that why you
like
don't play with me? You went out yesterday, didn't invite me.
Oh,
That checks
man.
out. That checks out.
I would never. I think that I'm just like, and I'm not saying I was joking about divorce. My partner and I are very happily together. She supports me in my disc golf endeavors very thoroughly. But like, it's funny. Like, there's like, I really took out all my friends, and Michael Patnode, who you also know, Paige. Like, he was the one who was like, I love this. I'm going to do it all the time. Now we hang out a lot more. It's like kind of affects who you. It's like that's what you want to do while you're going to spend time together.
I think, it definitely impacted that. I was actually having that thought today where it's like, I used to get asked for form advice a lot more when I was an amateur rather than when I'm a pro. Seems like not as many people talk to me about some of these things that I was having conversations with even like 6 months ago. And so I wasn't sure if that was because I'm surrounding myself with people that are taking it as seriously as me, so they don't ask, or if it's like I'm just not approachable anymore. But it's definitely been crossing my mind. But I know I take it way too. Like, I'm doing a podcast every Thursday at 6 or 7 or 6 to 7. And it's just like, oh, yeah, it's become a big chunk of my life. I was talking to my brother. I was like, I think I need a new hobby because disc golf is no longer a hobby. It's a big chunk of what I'm doing.
Right.
So I need something to take a break from my hobby. I was like, when did it turn to this? And it's not even like my disc collecting anymore. It's like, oh, yeah, I have my podcast. I was at De La for a week and a half. I'm practicing this afternoon. I met up with so-and-so yesterday. It's just like, even when I have to, like, I got to go checking out Huck Labs, all day disc golf depot, do my rounds and say hi. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things why you're not asked anymore. I think they probably listen to the podcast and know that they'll be talked over. Then also they just see your form and they're like, I'm going to move on.
I
hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Sure. I am
Started asking Mr. Butter.
Biologically superior. That's all I use. That's like I use my biological superiority over everybody. I am stronger, therefore I throw further. That's all I do.
But you're saying that so Danny's the smoothest disc golfer you've ever
I
met.
love his form. I think you can
what
tell.
About it is the smoothest part? Like what makes it so smooth?
So for me, I boil it down to there's two types of people in a lot of athletics. There's the analytical and then there's the intuitive. And to me, Danny's form is very analytical in its process. So you can tell like everything that he's doing has been thought about. It's been planned. It has intention behind it. It's not like me where I'm just like, turn my brain off, rip. Like everything you can just see, he's just so methodical and analytical with his approach. He's do. He reaches back. As he reaches back, he has like this smooth follow through with it. Like to me, it's one of the purest like disc golf forms that I've seen because of that analytical side of things, because of the intent that's going into it, because of the follow through, because of how smooth he's at. He's not trying to go above his means, but therefore he's also not trying to go underneath his means. He's smooth with it. And that's what, for me anyways, that's the best way I could describe it.
Okay, no, that's good.
I'm just like, when I watch him play, I could literally watch him throw nonstop and I enjoy it. There's not very many golfers that I find that I like that. So there's your compliment, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing
You get
compliment.
one.
You play a lot of disc golf, you watch a lot too. So honestly, that makes me feel great to hear. Because I mean, I'm not like a super good disc golfer, but I do think I have good form. And it is, you're totally right. And we've never talked about it before, but I have definitely put in my years at Disc Golf University on YouTube, you know, the Lazat, the Will Schusterick, all the form videos. I've watched them all. I've filmed myself, and you know, it was the same for me in basketball. Like I wasn't good. I wasn't intuitive. You know, you look like a guy like Michael Patno. That guy is just raw athletic power, and he tries hard too. But you know, I tend to break things down and try and pick them apart, and you know, like try and get the most out of what I got. And another part of it is starting the game at 33. You know, I'm trying to play it for a long time. So, you know, I pretty early on saw some guys throw over 400 feet who were not doing a fast run up. And I was like, oh, you don't have to do that. That's fine. You know? So then I was like, well, I want to figure out how to not do that because we are spinning on a bent knee. So if you can do that until your 60s or 70s, you're going to have to do it smoothly. Yeah, but you know, like I said, I'm not like an amazing disc golfer, and I'm not a good bowler either. I'm like an okay bowler. I can bowl like 130, but when I bowl, it's like people are like, "Damn, it looks like you should be way better at that," because it's like you're kicking your leg out, and you're like going through. How come you're not very good at it? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't think I was born with that much hand-eye coordination, but I do like to try and like get it right, and I'm, you know, like I think that's part of the fun for me, and I think that I do like taking disc golf seriously, even though. You know, I'm playing MA1. I'm not trying to go on tour. I'm not trying to get a sponsorship, although I'm open to it. But it's fun to me to take it seriously. It's not because I need to like, you know, win $5 off Michael. It's because like I want to be absorbed in it. I want to, you know, be detail oriented, keep track of like how I'm doing it. Totally fine for people who don't want to do that. But to me, like I just get pleasure in like improving at something, trying to achieve some mastery. And you know, what's fun about disc golf is the complexity. You know, like you can lose yourself. That's why people get hooked on it, is because there's so much to it. You know what I mean? Like you can, you know, like at first I was like, why the hell would you need a backpack with 20 discs in it? And now I understand that it's because it's a really complex sport. There's all kinds of situations. The weight matters. The plastic matters. How old it is matters. The wind matters. The temperature matters. That's fun. It's like so many details, and so you don't get bored because disc golf has so much to offer.
That's a good point. It definitely keeps you focused too. It's really easy to. What I love about disc golf is when you're disc golfing, you don't have room to think about anything else. Like you just gotta focus on your movements, your release, and anytime you're having a
I
bad
can't
day,
turn my brain
it just
off. I
goes
think about
away.
everything and anything.
Outside of disc golf.
Yeah, work on that.
Oh, yeah, I need to work on it. That's like my biggest thing. It's like it's within disc golf and it's outside of disc golf. And I used to be really bad at it. I've gotten a lot better. That's, but don't mean to interrupt you. But I'm a classic overthinker and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps me. That's like one of my favorite parts about it. Is it allows me to shut everything off and just focus on the sport while I'm doing it. Especially like after hard days, like disc golfing. There's nothing else like it. There's no beer that can beat what disc golf does for me. One thing I want to pull up is that from the chat earlier about how serious you get at disc golf and who you're inviting to go play with you. And somebody in the chat wrote, "It got so serious for me, my dog lost his invitation. I'm ashamed of this."
Wow. Man's best friend.
Oh, poor Fido.
It was really hard not to laugh.
Yeah. Actually, that was my experience, man. I'm not even kidding. I didn't have a disc dog, but Miles and I, so we started going, we had a friend who lived in Estacada, so the first course I ever played in my life was Mile MacIver, and we would go there, visit our friend, and then go with his dog, Molly. And Molly was an amazing fetch dog. And so it was great because I would, you know, get my first driver, which of course was like a secondhand Blizzard Boss, and crank it straight into the woods. And then Molly would go bring it out, which was great. And then as we got good, you know, you get the bug. It's like literally like we'd be shouting down the fairway, and we would be like, you know, like having a beer as well, right? We wouldn't be really keeping score. He was so much better than me, and we'd be shouting down the fairway like, "Molly, don't drop it, like, you know." When we started actually competing out into the sport, we had to like leave the dog at home because she couldn't like leave the discs alone, you know. And so hey man, I hear you out there. You know, sorry Molly, sorry Fido, sorry to all the dogs that are getting left at home, but you got to learn. You got to, you know, leave the disc alone. We tried everything. We tried spraying the discs with something she didn't like. it didn't work. So it's like if you can't hang, then you can't come.
If you can't hang,
Yeah.
All
We
right.
got
Molly.
another question from the chat. It was when introducing new people to the sport, do you recommend teaching standstill throws or X-step throws?
I can answer, at least from my perspective. I'm just
Yeah, go for it.
encouraged, not necessarily one or the other. My biggest thing when I bring somebody, introducing them to the game, it's just throw discs. We're gonna figure that out if you fall in love with the game, and we'll get there. But initially, it's just like I might give a couple of hints, but I just want them to throw as much as they can and want to, because that's the funnest part initially. It's just chucking a disc. And then if they start to take it seriously, I do like to just go into the X step. I don't like the standstill approach. I think it's effective and it works for some, but me personally, if you've done the grapevine in class, if you've done different movement like agility drills, like just being able to kind of slow, methodical, be intentional with how we're doing it. I think kind of working on some of those mechanics early is important, because there's a lot of people that get into the standstill and they spend like a year only doing standstills, and then they forget how to walk. And so for me, like I said, I'm very intuitive, I'm very fluid, so it's like I encourage people just to move, just to throw, just to get out there, and then as we start to get better, we're going to start to dilate it in and find out what's natural. Because like one of my favorite things is Europeans. If you watch their form, they're not trying to be Eagle McMahon, they're not trying to be Paul Macbeth and how they're throwing. A lot of people are like, this is how I throw, and they'll do like a little hop and they'll throw because it's comfortable and it's what works for them, and they're not trying to be anything other than kind of how they feel comfortable throwing. And I think there's a beauty to that I try to convey when at least somebody's new. Because I still say this game hasn't been figured out, because if it was, everybody would have the same form, but not everybody has the same form, but everyone has the key components to the same form, right? Nose angle, release angle, the pull through, the pocket, the power pocket. All of these things are like transferable, but they're all different. Matty O's like power pocket is here.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Macbeth is here. Drew Gibson comes low to high. Like finding where that power pocket's going to be for you is different for every individual. So it's kind of like when you push a kid, you're like, are you right or left-handed? Like, I don't know. You push them, they take a step back. You're like, hey, look, you're right-footed. That's where we're going to throw off, and finding that for them. I don't think enough of that is explored in disc golf. So that's my long-winded answer. Anyone else?
I like how to find out if kids are dominant left or right hand, you push them. That's fantastic. I help kids at school do this, and I say it's your toothbrush hand. Paige is just out there knocking kids down. You step back right.
That's wrestling.
Jeez.
That's wrestling. Can't be afraid of physicality, no matter the age.
One thing that you said that that really resonated with me, Paige, is like what I see, and I feel the tendency in myself, is I see experienced disc golfers out there with their buddy who they're bringing out there, or if it's maybe their like girlfriend or something. You see it, and it's like just people overloading people with information. Like, oh no, it's okay. You want to like make sure your toes are pointed this way, and then like this is like, and like doing that to a beginner. First of all, they're not going to see results on the next throw, right? It's so much muscle memory. So I totally agree. Just like go out there and throw discs. And I think I tend to give people the tip to not go get a Blizzard Boss, right? Like go get a Pure, or a Pure or a Buzz or a neutral fairway, and just play one disc rounds, and like learn how to throw a neutral disc. I think that's really nice, because then you learn how, those discs aren't as unforgiving. They're like, if you throw an overstable disc, it's going to go, it's going to go left no matter how you throw, right? But I feel like giving people tons of form tips is really unproductive and kind of overwhelming. And I feel like when I play with someone new, I have to hold back from like, I want to tell you to do this, because I'm noticing, because I'm very, like we were talking about, like very technique and detail oriented. But yeah, people should just have fun. And then like, hey, if you want, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink, right? It's like, if you want to get good at this, hey, log on to YouTube University and check out the Will Schusterick form video. You know what I mean? And you'll learn yourself if you want to do a standstill or X step or whatever. But you can't make someone do that stuff, and it's hard to teach, someone who's an amateur and is like, hey man, I thought we were gonna drink a beer in the woods, and like you're sitting here talking to me, about the power pocket, and like we've been standing on a tee pad for 10 minutes. Like that's not that fun.
Yeah, nobody likes that guy of like, oh yeah, let me just overly coach you right now. Like There's a couple like YouTube videos that popped up to mind where I'm just are like Instagram reels that just crack me up, but it's like that kind of meme where there's a guy on the wall and he's just like talking to that girl. It's just like kind of that energy where you're just like, you're gonna do this. This is what a hyzer is. This is an anhyzer. This is a hyzer flip. Like
so overwhelming.
So overwhelming. You're like, this is a disc. Just throw it. I think there's a question that came in, putter or mid range, to teach a disc on. I think with the amount of technology that's out here right now, you can't go wrong with either one. I think giving somebody a praxis and a mind bender and telling them to throw it, that's all you need at this point. I think there's great mid ranges for form teaching that are even a little forgiving. Like I think it used to be like take the flippiest disc, and then I feel like that's hard to teach on because it's not forgiving. You want a little forgiveness with people. You want them to be like misrelease something and still see a flight just a little bit that they can correct on. And I think mind benders are great at that. They'll fix some of that without being completely overstable like an MD4, where you're teaching the anti-flexes, but it's not going to turn and burn. Glitches are great as well. It's that same kind of thing.
These
like
are great for kids. Great for kids because they're kind of shaped like a traditional frisbee, which a lot of them know, high glide, and just kind of fairly neutral. So I use them with my kids. I use them at schools. And they work very well.
Yeah, glitch. So there's a question. If you can only choose one disc, I think Cody chose glitch. I chose Mindbender. What's your guys' favorite disc to teach on?
Mine's a toss up. I kind of go like right now. I have my wife. She carries the Buzz and the Pathfinder. So I think they're both similar enough where the Ethos Pathfinder. It's a little bit easier to get farther. But what?
There's a comment. Sorry, it cracked me up. It's all Cody hands kids the glitch. Paige hands them a stern shove.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Tough love.
No, it's okay. It's tough love. But yeah,
tough love
the
in
Buzz,
the Hurtado world.
The Buzz or the Pathfinder. It's one of those two.
Okay.
I kind of stay away from like fairways or drivers. Just stick with the mids. And then putters and like a tactic.
Putters and mids.
Yeah.
For approach shots.
Yeah, I like to throw pures, and I think that if I were gonna play one disc round with a new person, I'd be like, and I always have them around because it's like, oh, that's my old one, that's my new one, that's the one I haven't put in the bag yet. Let's grab a pure each, and you just throw all backhands, and like, especially when you're new at disc golf, you haven't played it, you don't know that people throw 400. You go out there and you see yourself throw 150 and you're like, oh, I got a good rip in. It's like you don't need a fast disc. Just go out there, everything's a par 5. It's fine, And when people see what you can do with a putter, and then you can just putt with it too. I think that the pure or any disc like that, really, I mean, they're not that different to a beginner. They're not gonna see a big difference between throwing a Buzz and throwing a pure. But I think that that's a good way to do it, is to play with slow discs. And I do see people all the time who can't throw like putters, and they're missing out, especially here in Oregon. Like you need if you need to throw a putter backhand, that's like half the holes in Oregon. So
I have like 6 throwing putters in my bag.
Yeah, it's so fun
Yeah.
too. It's fun. It's how you hit gaps, for me at least. And like when I see people busting out their 9 speeds or the 12 speeds on these technical lines, it's like, man, you need to get in the world of throwing putters, because that, it's like there's so much you can do with a putter. So I really enjoy one disc rounds. Like if you guys want to just play one disc round tomorrow, I'd be pretty stoked. And you leave the backpack at home and just walking around with one frisbee, it feels great.
I will say too, though, back to your original point about like not playing with as many new players or people that are starting out. I think that's partially it, right? Like I know new players are kind of like timid out there the first time, and I think it's better to go out with people that are maybe a little bit more better than you, but not too much, that they're just starting out. Like, oh yeah, we're grabbing a 6-pack or whatever. Because when they're like, they don't know how to throw 400 feet, and then you're like, hey, look, throw this, and it's like 350, and that's kind of intimidating, and it's just like, oh, there's this huge skill cap that forms. Even the person that introduced me was like playing for 10 years, super casual guy, and didn't really do tournaments, and I'm the one that made him more competitive, because it's like, okay, cool, I know that's what you've been doing for 10 years. I need to play tournaments. I need to get better. And so, like, he didn't want to get beat by me, so then he had to start stepping up his game, and that was a great way for me to chase and catch him, and then eventually pass him. Because after like 10 years, like you said, he was just casual. He was going to Rockwood, which is a putt course, and he's throwing an octane, and
Oh
you
my
know, it's just like
gosh.
that's where he's casual. But now he can play the whole course with putting, and so it's like that mutual way of pushing each other. I think is important to grow in that game. So kind of just going back to your beginning point that sometimes it's hard to being like, okay, I've just been playing for 4.5 years. I've been grinding for 4.5 years to get to where I'm at. Like, you will never catch me because I'm not going to stop kind of mindset. Because I have people that I'm trying to catch that are just like 4 months ahead of me, 6 months ahead of me, 3 years ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to bridge that gap. So it's like sometimes that could be a little daunting for a new player to have that kind of energy. So that might be why people don't like to play with me. No, that's maybe why Danny didn't invite me yesterday.
Oh man, well, you know,
I mean,
I'll
Michael didn't
invite you
invite me.
tomorrow.
Michael didn't invite me Tuesday. You didn't invite me yesterday. I just feel like you guys are cutting me out.
No way, Paige. Hey, you want to play? You want to play Sunday? Let's go. I mean, you know, so yesterday was good. I would say that it's true that the people I introduced to the game 3 years ago, it's like the ones who got hooked. I'm still playing with them. It's like, yeah, I don't really want to go watch someone throw 100 feet 3 times each time I play a hole. So I don't know.
It's hard.
Do you
That's
guys,
what
you
you
guys
tongue,
play
right?
with
Like
beginners ever?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Do we what?
play with beginners.
I have, and I
Yeah.
still kind
I
of do
do
from time
quite
to time.
often.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you know Dallas Garber. I took him out to Blue Lake yesterday and was just like,
Yeah.
"All right, kid, this is how you throw a disc." And I had to
Isn't
teach
he
him a few
better than you?
lessons. That's
Yes,
subjective.
he is definitely better than Peyton.
I've seen him on TV. I don't know where I've seen you.
You see me on TV every Thursday.
This is a computer monitor.
This is
What TV channel did you see Dallas on?
I saw him on. What was it? It's not Pros versus Joes, but it was something. What's the
Oh,
one
it
where
was-
they
Oh,
host?
Champs
Champs
vs.
vs.
Chumps.
Chumps. That's
Yeah,
YouTube.
See on that?
Yeah, but I watched it on my TV.
But we're on YouTube every week. It's not my fault. You
Eh.
don't watch me on your TV.
Eh,
Yeah.
eh.
Well, you know, you all. I don't know about like you guys, Josh and Cody, but like Paige, you play so much. I am jealous. And also I think that's a big difference because for me, I play about once a week, and to me, that's my time to go do this thing. And I don't really, and like, you know, Tess, if you ever listen to this, you're still welcome to come play disc golf. I'm not saying, like, I don't want to sound like a total dick here and be like, no, I'm never going to
Call
play
your
with
buddy
my wife.
out by
I'm
name.
never gonna-
I love it.
No, I'm talking about, that's my wife.
I was saying his wife.
Oh.
He said Tess. I thought he
I
meant
mean,
his
she's
wife.
my best buddy for sure, but also my wife. And yeah, you're still invited. You can, you know, I think we still have your Nova that we can bust out. And I was like, that's a great beginner disc. It's kind of like a frisbee, but those are.
I have
Nobody's
5 of
great.
them. I use it
Oh,
with
yeah?
kids at school.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, it's like I want to go compete with the guys who are going to help me, push me to get better, because that's like the fun. I love it when it's like a thrilling close finish with a casual round. And I don't play that many tournaments. I feel like you play a lot of tournaments, so you go play casual round, you're kind of goofing off. Whereas for me, it's like, oh man, this is what I'm training for. I might be playing like 2-3 tournaments all year.
Yeah, I feel that for sure.
I'm
I don't
at
play a lot of
14 tournaments
tournaments.
this year already.
How many? 14?
14 this year, yeah.
Oh my
It's-
God.
It hasn't even picked up to the summer months yet. That's just over winter.
I played
Yeah,
one
I know.
tournament already, and it was 8 hours. And I told my wife, I was like, "Listen, it'll be a while before I play that."
Why was it so long? Like Dela took us like
It was-
4 hours to play.
It was 2 rounds of a long course around here, and it was kind of wet. And they mixed in rec with MA. Like there was different cards placed around, so it's a pretty challenging course. And there was like a 6-card pileup because these rec players were going like every 10 feet they'd lose a disc in the woods. Then they'd like come back, and we were all like, "Oh my god!" So there was 6 people waiting for this one group. It probably added an extra hour to 2
Well,
hours
there was-
to our day.
There's a
It's
couple
like,
courses here, like
geez.
Meadows, where it's like hole 8 build up can be like an hour long. I used to bring my massage gun with me on some of these courses so the lactic acid doesn't build up. Now I saw somebody bring a book, so I might be bringing Beijing Payback out at the next tournament and just read it.
Do you have audiobook?
I
did?
did.
Listen-
Yeah.
I could listen to it while I play.
Yeah, I think actually I can pull it up real quick.
Get it up here.
Available. What we got? It's available on audiobook. Got paperback. Look at that.
Now, is
You can
that
find
you
us
on the
it.
cover?
That looks
Yeah.
like him on the cover.
That
it does
is
look
me.
like him.
There's
All
a
right,
story
I was gonna
behind
ask.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So basically, what happened was, so when this is the cover just for the paperback, and like if you click on the hardcover, right, there's a different cover. That was the original cover.
Let me go
And when
hardcover.
the basically they're like, hey, we have an idea for the paperback. It's going to be this guy running, and they sent me an image, like a mock-up of it, and they had the wrong city. It was Hong Kong instead of Beijing, and it's like, okay, well, so you need to change the background. And then the guy running was like, he was kind of like, I'm late to class, or he was like, I'm gonna go restock the cell phones. Like he did not look like
He
excited.
needs to kill somebody.
This is this guy's solving a crime, And so, I was like, this is cool. I love the concept, but could you get another image of a guy who looks like he's like an athlete? This guy is a basketball player. He's solving a crime. His dad is dead. Like bullets are flying. Make it look a little more exciting. And they went back, into the image library. So like, yeah, sure, we'll try. And then they came back to me after a few days. My publishers, HarperCollins, is in New York City. They have all the resources. They're like, we cannot find an image like that. And to me, this kind of hit like a sensitive spot because I'm Chinese American. I've been going my whole life looking at TV, only seeing Chinese American men in roles in which they are like nerds, right? In which they're like the hacker guy or the guy who's good at math, or there's very few, or they're like a ninja, but like not like a hero. That really, really rare. And I just know if these guys went into their image library and they had to find some athletic dude solving a crime, and he had to be white or he had to be black, I don't think they'd have as much trouble. But they had nothing. They're like, we still think it's a good cover. And then my agent, bless her soul, was like, hey, what do you think if Daniel provided an image? And the publisher, to their credit, was super open-minded to that. And they were like, yeah, it's not recognizable. It's funny because people tend to recognize me, but it's like cut off at the nose. Go ahead and shoot it yourself. We'll even give you a budget for a photographer. So I knew a guy who was a photographer. I hired him. We shot the image, and it's on the cover of the book. That's me.
Well, see, that's what I mean. I love about that story because
awesome.
that is not only true like for authors, but that's like disc golf too, right? Like you got to go figure out this world for yourself if you're trying to navigate it in your own sense, in your own regard. You can't just there's not resources available right there. Like, and granted, I know when it comes to like racial like side of things, this is not there. When you talk Native Americans, the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, we're romanticized. I joke like Twilight was the thing that made it okay for natives to come back out, and that was even romanticizing us, even in that same light. But it was still like, okay, cool, but it took us in a modern like state, and I'm no longer extinct. And I know like especially with like Asian like cinema, that's been a huge push this last few years, and it's been great seeing like even like Fresh Off the Boat turning into like what was the one that just came out and won all those awards?
Yeah,
like,
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, y'all go check it out. I loved that movie. I laughed and I cried for sure. And it hit some buttons. Good. Yeah. I mean, I think that my instinct also in that situation is just, it's like a classic Asian American person. I was just like, I'm just happy for the opportunity to be here. I pushed back and I was like, I want a different image, and they're like, we don't have it. And I was like, oh, okay, well then thanks for inviting me anyway. I mean, it's like, it's just, I'm ready to be like, well, but so that's why I was grateful to my agent, who's not Asian, but was, is a badass, and was like, no, like, let's do something, let's fix this. But the instinct of so many people of color who are invited to the table is just to be like, thanks for having me. Sure. I have something to say, but it's not that important, because thanks for this, I'm just not trying to cause any problems. And it's important to have a voice and stand up and speak for what matters. And, I think it's important when we look around us, we look at Asian men, how come, how like people literally DM me. They saw my picture because I was in the New York Times. They're like, hey, I don't usually like Asian guys, but you're black. Like someone actually sent that to me. And I was like, you think that's cool to say? What do you mean you don't usually like Asian guys? Because every Asian guy you've seen on TV has like thick glasses and a calculator, and then you meet white guys who are like, oh, I have a thing for Asian girl. And it's like, well, is that because every Asian girl you've ever seen is like animated or has like, like looks like a school, the images that are perpetuated in our media. I know we're getting a little off topic on this.
No, I mean, I think it's an important topic.
You're good.
Yeah,
we don't have topics here.
And that's why, stuff like the Oscars are super cool. So, Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's going to be a Beijing Payback movie eventually. We're working on that right now.
Can we be extras?
Yeah, for
Yeah, just
sure.
just in the background, hooking a disc. You'll
Yeah.
see me in LA, like throwing a disc.
You guys can be Goon 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, I'll die. I'll
And
die. You can take me out. I'll
Yeah.
die. Oh.
Let's do it.
But no, and I think you bring up an important conversation because it is. It's like it's not just writing and cinema and mainstream. It's disc golf. I used to joke all the time of like when it'd be like you, me, and Michael would be out there and we're like, this is probably the most diverse card ever in disc golf. Because we have like the Chinese American, the Native American, the Filipino. It's like, hey, we're definitely the proudest card that's ever been here. But it's like it cracks me up because like I wouldn't see other minorities out there playing disc golf. And I always think about like what is it? Was it Knocked Up where he was all like, I could only let in 2.5 black men, you know, a night. I gotta hope a black midget comes in so I can let him in. Like,
yeah,
and it felt that way for me for the longest time on the disc golf course of being like, oh yeah, there's only allowed to be 3 minorities on this disc golf course at a time because that's what it felt like. And so I'd make my jokes out of like, you know, just my whole entire life, like realizing this thing, but it's like, oh yeah, like here it is a very predominantly like white dominated sport. And so seeing some of those like translatables and it's obviously growing and we're getting more diverse in there, but it's still, you know, it's still grounded in that and finding different ways of being like, okay, how do we grow it? Not just growing the disc golf game. Cause for me, it's important to grow it in Indian country because now I got out of the 9 tribes in Oregon, 3 of the tribes here are starting to play disc golf on their reservations. And that's because of me. And that's the important things that I'm trying to perpetuate, even though I don't ever talk about it. And it's just like, to me, they matter. So with that, I know we're going to transition to some of our closing thoughts. So we're going to jump it over to Josh.
All right. You know, I kind of want to hit back. We talked about when we have time to go out and, you know, some people go out to try to grind to get really good at disc golf. I feel like there's having like MA3, MA2, and MA1 before going to pro is very important. There's like a local tournament here that only is allowing MA3 and MA1 as the categories, and not doing MA2. And somebody asked them about it, like, why did you not do that? Like, well, it's just for trophies.
No,
it's just for trophies. So I think it's sufficient just having MA3 and MA1. But here's the problem that I see with it is that I feel like MA1 players are people who they want to be good. When they go play disc golf, they want to play with the best that are just like going for pro or like want to be the best but not pro. It's like a different league. The MA3 are people who are getting into tournaments who don't have the best form and can't throw as far as everyone else, but still want to come out and start competing, getting that experience. And then MA2 people, in my opinion, are people who they disc golf. When they have time, they go disc golf. They like playing tournaments. They got the form down, and that go into a tournament that does not have an MA2 level, so either got to play with like newer people or people who are just like far superior than you because they take it a lot more serious. That's my final thought. It was a rant.
Josh has a very
It's a rant.
vendetta against MA2 sandbaggers. That's
no,
really
what I do is I don't know. I've questioned myself, like, should I just go down to MA3 sometimes? It's like MA2, I like the vibe. I like people I play with there. Because like I got kids and like when I get out to play, I'm just like get as many people as I can to go with me and just try to do as good as I can. And MA2 is a really good place for me, and I really enjoy every tournament I go to because of it.
Yeah, and I think we're all just training for something. It sounds like you're training for MA40 is really what you're training for.
You know what?
I think it's great. I'm training for MP40. I missed my window for MPO, but MP40 is where I'm going to shine. That Masters Tour, woo! My daughter's going to be dominating FPO while
You think you're going to take down Barsby? Nah, man, Barsby. He got you.
Not when I'm 40. He has me now. He kicked my ass last weekend, but you know, I at least talked to him. So, you know, I know who he is. He knows who I am. So it's like
He don't know who you are.
oh, he knows who I am. We talked at Players Party.
He's probably got that restraining order.
That's where see, that's what we're talking about.
Did he shove him? Did he find out
Yeah.
his right
Did
hand?
you shove him? Hey, Barsby, what hand you throw with? Yeah.
People remember me in disc golf purely because I'm brown, I'm big, and I'm tattooed. They don't see that often on the course, so they're like, "Hey, I don't know you, but I recognize you." I get that all the time. So Barsby, he knows who I am.
Hey, you
Watch
fight
out.
kids. I know
Watch
that
out,
guy.
Greg. Yeah.
All right, Cody, what are your closing thoughts?
I think Dan, it was great having you. I think it's cool that you've been able to blend two of those passions you have. So I encourage anyone to whatever passion you have. It's probably one of them is disc golf if you're listening to this podcast or you just stumbled upon it. So nice to have you. But see what you can do and combine those passions into doing something you enjoy. Dan, you were able to get like a book done by also juggling getting better at disc golf. So find your passion.
Married.
Yeah. Get married. Yeah. Find your passion, put some time into it, and make the best of it that you can.
Absolutely. I think there's like that fine balance of it all because like I don't say it lightly, like you're getting married with that from girlfriend to wife. Like I think a lot of people get all sucked into it, all in. And I'm realizing when I started reading again how sucked into like my little hobbies that I get because I didn't put my book down and it was like 2 days and I'm just like all my attention is reading. I don't want to disc golf. I don't want, I'm just like reading every chance I get. Like I'm driving down the road. It's like, can I read one page? Oh, I better not. That's not safe. Like I get so
you can get
absorbed
pulled
in
over
it.
for that. My buddy, a police officer, has pulled over people for reading.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I do. I'm just saying like it's bad because that's how obsessed I get with things. Disc golf is the same thing. I went off the deep end and YouTube University was watching everything. So the fact that you can take a relationship from one step and continue to grow it, that's all balance. And I don't exist
people.
in that. So what are your closing shots or thoughts, Danny?
Oh my gosh.
I got some shots to fire. Well, okay, before I go, I want to take a little photo here just because this is just to commemorate my outfit.
Your outfit.
No one told me
Your guns here.
this is great. Guns out, everybody.
Up, boys.
We got my tan line.
Great. Yeah, I really think Josh touched on something important to me, which is like, what do you expect from what you're doing? I think
you said that's what do you expect?
No, this is like, you know that person, whether you're talking about at the disc golf course or you're talking about in the grocery line, who's like, why is it slow? Or like, why did I miss that putt? It's like, did you practice? Did you practice the way you need to? Like, what are you doing out here? Because if you're out here to have fun and you play once a week and like, well, that's me. I play once a week. I don't practice. I don't do field work very much anymore. And like, I don't get mad. Like, yeah, I get frustrated because I'm trying to do well. But if I'm doing my hobby that's for fun and I'm having a bad time because I'm not playing well, that's dumb of me, And it's the same thing with writing. It's like I'm trying to get paid to make a living as a novelist. I'll tell you, like all the books that you see in a bookstore, 90 to 95% of those people have a day job. To get into the bookstore, they had to fight, and they still have a day job. And to get into that top tier, you got to be busted. That's like being on tour, right? Those people are working hard. To me, disc golf is something I do for fun in addition to that and to relax. And so, yeah, I'm mad when I have a bad round, but I try and really put a bracket around that. I try not to yell at myself. I try not to yell at my friends. I try not to punch my car. You know what I mean? Like dude, if this is your hobby, have fun and be out here. And if you belong in MA3, like don't play MA2, and then be mad because you didn't, you know what I mean? Like like do the thing because you can compare yourself to others. You can dream big, but if you're not saying this is going to be my grind and I'm going to go nuts on this, then have fun with it, to like pick your level, align your expectations with reality. And that's happiness. Success isn't happiness. Matching your expectations with reality is happiness.
Hey, you get out what you put in.
Love it.
Yeah.
I was so we're training for Junior Olympics at my school right now. And I told our kids they're in practice, said, you're going to get out what you put in. You put in a lot of work. You're going to get a lot of good statistics from this. If you just joke around and goof off, you're probably going to have fun, but you're probably not going to do very well. So I like that.
No, and managing those expectations too and setting realistic ones, because I think that's where I get to. Like, I feel like not taking my practice as seriously and being casual has helped my mental game so much, because I still play with people that are trying to win practice, and it's just like it's the only sport I know that people try to win practice. No other sport I feel like is that way. Yeah, they're trying to win, they're trying to do good, they're trying to get the most points if it's live scrimmaging, and I get that, but that's a time to explore things in those practices. And if you're trying to get there, you're going to forever stunt yourself. So for me, like breaking through that has been great. And I feel like my headspace has been the best it's ever been on the practice course. And I think last week was just that, like I randomly got to do a full 18 with like Chandler Kramer, watched him ace, which was like huge. Loved that guy, but it's like, oh yeah, I'm having a great time. Like what I would be upset at if I'm missing these putts is like, I got another putter, you know? And so it's like, it's having fun with it. So for me, I did want to like give a huge shout out, Danny. Like, we're definitely going to have you back because I just enjoy talking with you. That's why I'm so upset you didn't invite me out. Because it's just like,
let it go.
You know, no, I don't let things go. I'm very petty.
To call you out, he told us.
I was petty Page. How long? I'm super petty, guys. I'm still one of those people that are out here saying championship courses are built for championship level
Josh,
players.
just go to the sponsors. Talk about Dan's book. Just mute him. Mute him, please.
My closing thoughts are be as petty as you can because that's going to reward you in the long run. So with that, we're going to transition to this week's sponsor, Soul Crusher, Manny Trujillo. Amazing individual. We're going to have him back on in a few weeks to months, depending on his schedule. It's soccer season, so he coaches youth soccer, so we're going to have him back on here. But if you want to support players by supporting the artist, Soul Crusher's where it's at. He does a lot of amazing art. He's just an amazing human being, an individual. I, of course, am sucking up to him because I wanted to design a stamp for me. He does not like me at all. No. So I'm trying to suck up, but also check out Beijing Payback. If you can pull this up again, Josh, it's $12.59 on Amazon, guys. It went down in price on as we're talking about it. This supports not only our guest, but it's a good mystery action thriller. So I'm told it's on my to-read list. I'm gonna read it. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the right time for
just mystery, going off of how
move.
Danny talks. It makes me want to read this book.
Exactly.
I just like the cover.
All right, guys. So with that, we'll see you next week and keep jamming it in the rough.